In today's podcast episode, we'll be focusing on perf fishing for bream in the metro area. Alright guys, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a podcast kind of style video. Perf fishing was, it was pretty good, not too bad. There was two options. You could either fish the river, which was brown like the Yarra in Melbourne, or you could travel maybe half an hour away and then get to blue water either south or north. So the location I fished was the Swan River. The main area I fished was the Causeway Bridge, right in the middle of the island. What we're going to talk about is probably lures, how fast I was fishing, what jig heads I was using. As funny enough, I've never caught bream on a 3/8, 3/0 jig head ever. But I've done it in Perth, and there is video for proof, which is coming in the next coming weeks. Generally, at home, we fish light for bream, 1/16, 1/20th in the Hopkins, or if you're fishing docklands, you'll fish around that same weight too. Alright, so Causeway Bridge, what we found is the tidal flow was very, very stretched out. So here in Melbourne, we have a 6-hour tide between changes. In Perth, it was way longer than that. The section of the river we were fishing had a lot of flow. So when you were casting your lure out towards the current will wash the lure right back out in front of the bream. We started using 1/8 ones first in the current, and we found that the bream were hitting the Rapala creeper 2.5 inch on the tail a lot, and we were missing the hookups. I'm not sure why, maybe because it was too slow on the drop. So we were just getting these missed hookups. I changed to the Cranker Crab Olive Heavy, and as soon as we whipped a cast right into the back wall of the bridge and it drifted it out, I was on. I think the bigger profile and the heavier lure helped with the situation where it just sunk a little bit quicker and the bream were just on it. The Rapala Creeper, when we up to like the 3/8 size or 1/4, the Creeper was also getting a fair few fish. We did try the bigger profile plastics, the Imposter 3-inch by Rapala. That was on a 3/8 jig head, and I was nailing a fair few fish on those too. A notable mention is Callum from Outback Brimmer Baits. I did get onto his lures and used a fair few of them through Causeway. I think I nailed maybe 2 or 3 fish that were actually kind of good, say around 35 to 38 centimetres, nothing over 40 on the muss. I found the muss was pretty good too. Cast it out, let it hit the bottom and just let it drag along the bottom with the current and the bream would pick it up. There was times where as soon as the lure landed on the water, we were already on. We could just feel them tap it. In terms of leader, braid, we used 6-pound fluorocarbon if we wanted the lure to sink a little bit quicker. If not, we ran mono in 10-pound. In terms of braid, obviously, just like at home, 6-pound, 8-pound. But I think I had, what did I have? I think I had 10-pound Suffix 832 on, and that was doing the job. I just ran a 6-pound leader. Yeah, but at times you could get away with a 10-pound and 10-pound setup. Like, it wasn't any issue because the current was just too quick. So as soon as that lure hit the bottom, the bream were already on it. They didn't really mind about the leader size or anything like that. What rod did I use? So I brought up my 775 medium light teak rod from Japan that I bought from Mackay. That rod through a weight size of 1/8 all the way up to 17 grams, which was, it was the perfect rod pretty much to throw anything like 1/4, 3/8 up to the back of that wall. The other rod I picked up was I picked up 2 rods actually. The other 2 rods I picked up was the Quest. So the first Quest I picked up was 7.3 light, 4 to 10 gram. The second rod I picked up was the 7.1 ultralight. Both rods were pretty good. I think I caught more bream on the second rod I bought off Alan from Ocean's Legacy on a nighttime session next to Narrows Bridge, which we will talk about. I'll talk about that later. That was a pretty good night. Like we landed a load of fish. It was pretty cool. Bodie from BCF in Port Adelaide, I'm pretty sure, has never caught a bream on lure, and we convinced him to buy a rod, and he came down with me that night and got his first bream on a lure. Didn't he just get his first one? He got a fair few, actually. As you can tell with this episode, it's really leading into my Perth Bream videos, which are coming in, should say maybe next week, next Tuesday. I hope you can take like a few tips away from this video and hope you catch your own fish in that area on lures. Getting back at what I talked about, Narrows Bridge. So Narrow Bridge is further upstream. So I had a session with Bodie at night at Narrows Bridge. This was probably leading up to the full moon. I think it was 3 days before the full moon exactly. Narrows Bridge is a little bit of rubble and all sand flat all the way through. Right in the middle section, I don't think we were fishing that deep. We were probably fishing about 1.5 meters. And it was just basically sand. I'm pretty sure Bodie and I went to the Ocean's Legacy warehouse, picked up our rods, and quickly drove back. It was on a Friday after work. We quickly drove back to Mill Point Road, parked our car, walked to the left-hand side of the bridge, and started throwing lures. I think we were throwing plastics first. But I'm pretty sure Bodie was the first dude to get a bite. I think Bodie had a creeper on, and he cast it out, and he said he was getting taps, but he couldn't hook up. So I think from then, that's when I switched the cranker crab. As soon as I picked up the cranker crab and threw it right towards the middle of the bridge and let the water loft it out, we were instantly on it. We knew where the fish were sitting on the flats. And we pretty much caught maybe 5 or 6 fish within the first half an hour or something like that. And then as soon as the sun went down, we found that the fish moved up on towards the sandbar on the flat. So they were sitting maybe in like 40, 50 centimeters of water, and we chopped and changed everything. We used every single lure we had. I used the creeper, the imposter, cranker crab, the muss in like 2 types, and we were just nailing fish after fish. They were just so turned on. I'm not sure even how or why they were turned on. I still reckon it was definitely that full moon, like towards that full moon bracket that made them bite. But I just remembering we cast out the crab and the water would loft the crab all the way out, and then I would just wind my handle maybe 2 or 3 times, and then literally the brim were just chasing after it and nailing the crab. That was a great session. I think we ended a session with like maybe 20 brim. I caught maybe about 12 or something along the lines of that. Bodie got a fair few by himself. Bodie's never ever caught a brim on a lure, and he lives in South Australia, which is like, he's got brilliant brim fishing in South Australia. He managed to nail a brim on the cranker crab, a plastic, the mass. Look, he literally did the whole get up. What you would throw for brim in Melbourne, pretty much. Yeah, we found that session was pretty hot. Like in terms of sizing, I don't think anything was over 35. Actually, I think everything we kind of like tangled with was maybe around that 25 centimeter mark, all the way up to 30 at best. But it was just constant. That we just found the fish swimming up on the flat and just nailing everything we gave at them. That's Narrows. Narrows was pretty good. So if you guys wanted to try Narrows out, fish Mill Point roadside and towards the left. Run your 6-pound braid, 6-pound leader. Don't be afraid to try different lures. You got the cranker crab by Steve. He's really great. Soft plastics, 2.5-inch grubs, even 3-inch. I was throwing 3-inch prawns and I was still nailing the fish. Definitely worth throwing bigger profile, especially if you want to get the 40 centimeter fish. Throw that bigger profile. Don't be afraid. The small fish will still nail it. If the fishing isn't really turned on too much and you're throwing a bigger profile lure at the brim, most likely it's going to be a big brim that eats. It's the same with the crab. We always talk about the crab. When you're fishing with a crab, if you use a bigger crab, you're going to get a bigger fish. You generally won't get a smaller fish. Fish the current. Current is your best friend. No flow, no go, pretty much. So anywhere that's got flow, loft in a crab, plastic, or the mussel by Callum, and just work it slow. Slower you fish it, the better it is with brim. If you find that they're a little bit timid, rub a bit of scent on. I use S Factor. S Factor's been my go-to. I call it Jesus Juice down here. What else can we talk about? Same brim setup. You want a bit of a challenge, you can run a 7-foot ultralight rod with a 1,000 size reel. That's the go-to now in terms of ultralight fishing for brim. So you can run a 7-foot ultralight rod with a 1,000 size reel, which is the go-to now for like brim fishing. Or if you want a bit more power, you can definitely run that 25 like what we used to do back in the day, or just stick in the middle and run a 2000 size reel with 6 pound braid. That's more than enough to do the job. If you do hook a mull away, good luck. Toadies, I think when I fished Causeway and Narrows, none of the toadfish were really a hassle in that area. I didn't find that too bad, but what I found was if you move down to Matilda's Bay Way and fish that edge, bro, if you're throwing a plastic down there, forget about it. You'll go through a packet within 2 minutes. The toadies are everywhere down here. I'm not sure why. I've seen more toadfish here than bloody Victoria. But it was definitely a funny experience. I went through a packet of creepers within 2 minutes. That's how quick it was. The bridge, not the Optus Bridge, past that. The other bridge that we caught fish off was the Graham Farmer Freeway Bridge, Windon Bridge. Josh got a brim down there with my bottom mate. I reckon all those pylons there would hold fish, especially the middle two and the third one from the middle. Front ones were alright, but I found that with the channel being locked next to the side, there was too many boats walking through it. I did see a few boats fish up ahead stream, like more inland. Also, if you're going to go and fish there, bring some bloody aero guard, because the mozzies in Perth are ridiculous. They're the worst than midgies, I reckon. And midgies, I thought midgies were bad in Harvey Bay or Mackay. God, the mosquitoes in Perth are ridiculous. You just get smashed. I remember Manny and I walking up from Causeway. We wanted to fish a little bit further down, and we were just getting hammered by mosquitoes. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. I hope you learnt a few things. Hope it helps you catch a fish on lure at Causeway Bridge in Perth. And towards summer, you do get really great fishing around that area. So keep punching away at it. Hopefully you land that 40 centimetre brim on lure. And thank you for listening.